This is Hank from the Wildflower Bee Farm. This is a close-up of yesterday's action. It's September 3rd today, so this is a close-up of the September 2nd look-like hostile takeover. So I'm going to take you through, if you go to Wildflower Bee Farm, our YouTube channel, this is a 20-minute video. I'm just putting a short clip up here on Instagram, but I'm trying to look at what was going on here. So let's dig into this. Was it a hostile takeover for sure? Would it be young bees doing a orientation flight? Was it a swarm? Was it just too hot? Let's dig deep. So as I look at this entrance, and the entrance is in that corner, you can see where all the bees are pushing air in and out. It looks like most of the bees coming in are not newborns, and you can tell by the level of fur on their necks, we call that. Most of these are mature bees. Now there are some, if you look on the right, you can see there's some that have fur, but they're not the typical newborn furry types of fuzzy little youngsters. So I don't believe this is an orientation flight. Plus time of day, probably not. It was a bit earlier than usual. Also saw a number of bees on the side of the hive throwing off pheromones. Now, this could be that they were trying to, in some weird way, get air going around the hive. I don't know, but it seemed like it was more pheromones than it was directed at any wind issues. It could also be argued that some of the bees at the entrance here, because there's so much congestion, are actually throwing off pheromones. They're not trying to blow air through. You also see on occasion there is pollen coming in. Now, if you're out collecting pollen and your hive is being taken over, you really don't know that. So you come back with pollen and you got all these other new folks hanging around. Now, there isn't any fighting, which is another issue that you wonder about, because if there's a hostile takeover, there's going to be fighting. Now, there's some bees sort of hanging on to each other. It's almost like they're festooning, and I wonder if tomorrow there will be some wax. We've had this before where bees are festooned, and then there's wax on the outside of a hive, which we still wonder about. But many of the bees coming in are mature. They're not youngsters. And bees coming in with pollen are sort of moving around and going in. So sometimes you wonder if these are bees that really belong to this hive, or did they just join into some gang activity? The bottom line of this is I really don't know what happened here yesterday. It looks like it's an outside hive or a swarm. Some of the bees look like they were flying fat, as I like to say. When bees are swarming, they have that sort of slow, fat movement. I shouldn't say fat. You know what I mean. Bogged down is probably a better word. Not as quick, not as maneuverable, because they're carrying so much honey. In this case, I'm not sure what's happening here. Now, there was a large mass of bees on the outside until dark came on, and then gradually they moved. They seemed to move inside the hive, and there was also a fairly large mass on the other side of the hive, the other side from the entrance, and it also eventually moved into the box. So I will keep track of these bees and do another video today just to see what I can tell is going on here. I won't open them up because I don't believe opening a hive this time of year makes any sense. And so let's just keep track. Now, if you want to keep observing, there's another 18 minutes of this to see if you can come up with any more clues regarding what you think is happening. Also, don't see any drones. It's not uncommon if it's a swarm to bring some drones along for insurance. And I haven't seen a drone yet, which is kind of surprising if it was a swarm. It's possible that this could have been a queenless swarm as well that came and joined this hive and was accepted, but I find that hard to believe. But who knows? I have no idea. The other clue sometimes is the shades on the abdomen, but the queens have so many different drone donors, that you don't know. The same hive could have very different shaded bees in it without any type of hostile takeover. Now, I call it a hostile takeover. In the literature, it's usurpation, I believe, or usurp, which is the takeover of a hive. I'm not sure it's violent or not. There may be some cooperation that goes on with this, and we'll just have to see. I'm Hank from the Wildflower Bee Farm. You enjoy this video. Talk soon.